510-251-1274. Dion Evans live. First day back in the studio of the week. Overlooking the, east side. Here at RMG Studios. Sitting atop the 10th floor. Wonderful view out there. Love the view. We can see as far as we want to see. It's good stuff. Let's get into this conversation. I've been hit up a couple of times by men who have wanted to know a lot about erectile dysfunction. And I, for the most part, have not had the conversation because it is not my issue. But I figure, now that I'm going to be 43 and diet and exercise has become something that's very necessary for me to participate in more and more. I don't want to increase in weight. I don't want to bulk up anymore. I want to be lean and fit and trim and all that kind of good stuff. And I've noticed that guys who have, kind of told me they kind of, got to take the pills, that they're not all guys that are like overweight. Some of these are guys who have, they have athletic builds, but they are not functioning as far as it relates to erections. Now, I don't know. I don't know what they, want. Do they just want, erection on demand? I don't know. I don't know what's going on. All I know is there's enough people struggling to have the conversation. And so what I've done is I went and enlisted Dr. Will Cole. He previewed on our broadcast a couple of weeks ago with Ejanae Canton, who will be with us in segment 4. And so I thought to get a hold of him. I have gotten in touch with him. And so we're going to have the conversation. Dr. Will Cole, welcome to Dion Evans Live, Truth, Raw, and Uncut. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on again.
Wonderful, man. I want to have you on more and more because I like what you do. I like the way in which you use social media to kind of get out to the masses. I love how you are kind of changing the mindset of the health industry. I love how you engage people. You are a doctor with friendship attitude. And for guys like me, typically we don't even go to the doctors because we just don't have that friendly experience when we go there, and the competency and how to talk to us is missing. And yet in you, I find like a brother that I can just kind of talk to and a friend that I can just go to. And so I thought it would be good to have you on to have this conversation about a very sensitive issue to men. A lot of men don't like talking about this out loud because they don't want anybody to know that this is them or possibly them. Let's talk about erectile dysfunction with Dr. Will Cole. Dr. Cole, what is erectile dysfunction really?
Well, I mean, it's just something that I see affect so many people. I mean, as you know, I have the virtual clinic and I see people all across the country, and the amount of people that this is affecting is just, it boggles my mind. And I mean, the research is that 50% of guys ages 40 to 70 years old are struggling with this or having issues sustaining an erection. And the problem is it's so complicated that it differs from person to person. So dealing and remedying this issue is not a one size fits all. It's not a pill in a bottle that's gonna help everybody, and what helps one person isn't gonna necessarily help the next person. So we really have to look at the underlying causes that is unique to that person, and that's what I do via the virtual clinic and the clinic here in Pittsburgh. And once we find out those root causes, we can start to regain function for that patient.
So now what are some of the root causes, Dr. Will Cole? What are some of the root causes of erectile dysfunction?
Well, I mean, it's for many people, we live in a day and age where this modern life comes with a lot of stressors. So we're dealing with stress at work, we're dealing with stress at home, we're dealing with financial issues, we're dealing with a diet. Like you mentioned, diet. Diet is a huge issue as far as putting stress in the body. So it's undoubtedly stress is a huge cause of erectile dysfunction. So we have to look and deal with those underlying stressors in that person's life that's causing this whole nervous system dysregulation, which is really what's causing, in many people's case, the erectile dysfunction. Because the erection, this is getting technical here. Hope I don't get too technical.
You're all right.
The erection it's regulated by the parasympathetic nervous system, which is kind of the relaxation nervous system. But when you're under stress, it's the body's fight or flight mode. It's the stress mode. It's the sympathetic nervous system that's being activated. So they're two inversely proportional nervous systems that are fighting for each other. And when the body's under stress, when you are stressed out at home, when you're stressed out at work, maybe medications that you're on are causing hormonal dysregulation. But these stressors are triggering the sympathetic nervous system, which is going to completely turn off, no pun intended, the parasympathetic nervous system, so your body cannot operate the way it's meant to be.
So you had alluded to a little earlier that the erectile dysfunction was about a man not being able to maintain an erection, which made someone like me, a layperson, think that, oh, he's getting erect, but he can't maintain it. He can't keep it. Is that what, did I get that right? Or is erectile dysfunction also that one cannot become erect at all? Help me out. Is that two different issues going on or one and the same?
That's one and the same, just varying degrees of it. Obviously, the less severe is it's just intermittent. It's coming and going. The erection is coming and going. But for some guys, it's literally impossible. And the devastation that I see in the guys' hearts and eyes when I see them face to face or on the Skype consult if they're outside of Pittsburgh, it's just devastating to see the depression and the shame that comes along with erectile dysfunction. But more conversations has to happen like we're having tonight to completely remove the stigma of it, to allow guys to regain the function that they want and to get help. Because you're right, a lot of guys don't go to doctors, and they're sure as heck not going to tell their doctor they're going through this stuff, but they need to not feel shame about it because they're wasting their life away when there's no reason why most guys should not have this problem. And the solution is not a blue pill. The solution is not Viagra. You're not having erectile dysfunction because you have a Viagra deficiency. So we have to find out why you have this problem. And then when you do that, you can get the function back that you were meant to have.
So you say Dr. Will, again, Dr. Will Cole, he's my special guest, segment 3, Dion Evans Live, Truth, Raw, and Uncut. You say that when it comes to erectile dysfunction, there are many different reasons why that can be. So it's kind of like it's not a one-size-fit-all. You have to kind of sit down, consult with the individual, find out a group of things. How do you, Dr. Will, how do you get a man to talk about these issues, especially a man who may be very embarrassed about talking about these issues? I mean, I could imagine that telling your doctor the first time or telling somebody, man, my stuff don't work. I mean, that's got to be hard to, number one, agree with, and just as hard to confide in somebody about.
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of guys find it difficult, but when you mentioned the friendship and the one-on-one, when you have a personal connection with somebody and they feel comfortable, which is what I try to do with every single patient that I see, then they feel like, you know what, this guy can help me out. I'm an advocate for them, and that's what I am. And that's the number one thing that I see within guys. Even if they have a secondary issue, let's say they have diabetes, or let's say they have cholesterol issues, they won't put the diabetes as the number one issue. They'll put erectile dysfunction as the number one issue. So I see this as a problem with all different types of conditions. And like you said, a lot of fit-looking guys that don't have these diseases are struggling with this as well. So I see everybody in all points of the spectrum.
So let me ask this question, doctor. Let's take a man who is erectile functional. What are some things that he needs to start paying attention to that would warn him that he is starting to teeter towards erectile dysfunction?
Well, I mean, you're going to want to stay as healthy as you can, obviously. So eating whole foods, eating whole vegetables, eating clean meats. You need to get saturated fats in your diet, clean, organic saturated fats, so grass-fed beef, organic dairy, because look, our hormones are made up of saturated fat, so we want to make sure that we are not fat deficient, so our hormones are regulated and operating properly. And the research links these high fat diets are really good at keeping your hormone sensitivity at optimal levels. And we also mentioned last time burst training. I'm bringing up burst training again, but burst training increases your human growth hormone levels, which again is an antagonist to the stress hormone, cortisol. So you want to make your human growth hormone levels up healthily and naturally, and one way to do it is through burst training. But you also just want to get tested. We do tests for our patients. People can find out about it on drwillcole.com. And we do saliva tests where we look at your hormone levels at this amazing test that shows all different levels of the male hormones, the sex hormone, their adrenal stress index, and their brain function, which ultimately is the foundation of what's regulating the rest of their hormone function.
drwillcole.com. I've dropped that on my Facebook page. For those of you who need to get after that, I want you to get after that. You do talk a little bit about the virtual work that you do for people who are, just now getting accustomed to hearing about this type of service.
Yeah, so I have a virtual clinic, virtual practice. It's on. People can request a consultation on Dr. Will Cole, drwillcole.com. And I have Skype consults, just like I'm on the Skype line with you, Dion. I do Skype consults for patients all across the country. So we drop ship the appropriate labs that they need run, like the hormone lab that you need for erectile dysfunction and other hormonal issues. And then we customize a treatment plan based on those labs, based on that patient's hormonal regulation or dysregulation, based on their genetics, based on their biochemistry. We tailor a program that fits their unique body. So it's all done virtually, but this is the 21st century, and we're able to cut down barriers and help people all across the world now.
I love it. I think, for guys like myself who don't want to go to the hospital, it's much easier for me to kind of like pull it up on my computer, say, hey, doctor, what's going on? Want to check in with you real quick. I think that may be the best way to capture the attention and get men more involved in their medical practice. Dr. Will Cole, my special guest. Let me ask this question. Can erectile dysfunction be prevented?
Absolutely. So you want to be as healthy as you can be. We talked about that earlier. So eating fresh, organic, whole foods wherever possible. You want to look. I mean, this is maybe a sensitive subject for some people, but alcohol consumption inhibits the activity of the enzyme called aromatase. Aromatase converts testosterone to estrogen. So if you're consuming lots of alcoholic beverages, there's lots of reasons not to do that, but one reason is it actually converts testosterone to estrogen, and a lot of the toxins beyond alcohol are really causing estrogen dominance in guys in the United States. So we're seeing a lot of guys with what, the layman term is man boobs, and they're getting this estrogen dominance, and it's causing erectile dysfunction too. And one of those causes of that conversion from testosterone to estrogen, causing the estrogen dominance, is alcohol. So that's one thing you can do. And not over exercising. Exercise is good, but if you exercise too much, it's been shown that guys that run all the time actually have lower testosterone, have smaller testicles, and actually lower overall performance because their body's just too stressed. So going back to that stress mechanism, their cortisol levels are too high in their blood, and it's causing inverse proportional levels of those testosterone being produced in the testicles.
Are there particular foods, that people can eat, especially men, to ensure that their cortisol levels are lower and that their testosterone levels are boosted?
Yeah, you want to eat fresh foods, and that's the common, easy way to say for most people. They should be eating real foods that come from the ground, that God made, and they want to stay away from processed foods, and they want to stay away from processed meats. It's been linked to these artificial hormones that are in factory farmed meat. If it's not labeled organic, if it's not labeled grass-fed, it's probably given some sort of growth hormone. And these processed meats have been linked to, again, estrogen dominance in men, because these synthetic hormones actually are hormone mimickers. And it's causing the body to become completely dysregulated hormonally, and it's causing a toxicity issue, which is another thing guys can do as a preventative and as a treatment method, is just to do a good clinically based detox system to help their hormone function properly.
I got an anonymous text message came in out of Alameda County. They asked me to ask this question of you. Will taking steroids in your youth impact erectile functionality later in life?
Absolutely. So it's that bucket theory. So that's just one more stressor, one more factor that's causing or may cause hormone dysregulation later on in life, and they're putting in motion their body to completely be completely dysregulated later on in life, potentially.
Wow, wow, wow. So athletes who are trying to get an advantage these days may be putting in motion some things that they don't want to take place later on in life.
Absolutely, yeah. What you do today is going to determine the manifestation later on in life with your health and a lot of other issues.
So, Dr. Will Cole, if a man knows right now, he says, look, I know I have erectile dysfunction, and they're already taking the blue pill or Cialis or any of these other erectile dysfunction products, what do you suggest they do today?
Well, at the very least, they have to assess their diet. You know, if their diet's not clean, clean it up. Eat whole foods, eat real foods. At least start there. You know, and if that's not enough, and it's not enough for most people because the level of stress, the level of hormone dysregulation is not going to be fixed by just changing your diet alone. You're going to want to get the proper tests. And again, we do them on drwillcole.com. You can request a consultation, and we can look at your individual makeup and what you will need. But getting the proper hormone tests will be able to, for us, give us a view as where your testosterone levels are at, where are your hormone levels at. And the answer again is not to just take a testosterone pill, because I see a lot of guys taking these natural testosterone pills, and that's not good either. You can't just, you know, wantonly just give yourself self-medicate with testosterone, because again, you want to find out why your body's not producing testosterone, and that's different from person to person. And just kind of inundating the body with exogenous external testosterone is not the answer for most guys.
When you talk about taking this hormone test as it relates to erectile dysfunction, what does this test? What is it? What's the makeup of it?
It's actually a saliva test. So you just spit in a couple vials, and the lab's actually in Seattle, Washington. So I drop ship the lab to the patient wherever they're at, and then they send the lab up to Seattle, and then diagnostics, the lab, they do the actual lab, and then they send it to me, and then I interpret the lab, and then I tailor the program based on what hormonal imbalance those patients have. So it's saliva. It's very simple. You put it in the vials and you send it off in the mail. Very non-invasive, very easy.
Well said, well said. Dr. Will Cole, he is my special guest, Dion Evans Live, Truth, Raw, and Uncut. Glad to have him as we're having this initial conversation regarding erectile dysfunction. I told you guys in the past that I would have him back. I have him today, and I will have him again in the future because he is just that necessary. Check out his website, www.drdwillcole, WILCOLE.com, drwillcole.com. For those of you who haven't seen a doctor in months and Sundays, you at least owe yourself the responsibility of at least catching up with his website, drwillcole.com, where you may not be willing to go to the doctor where you live. You might be willing to at least during halftime or in the seventh inning stretch or sometime over the weekend. College football is now over. You can now take some time to at least virtually have a conversation with a doctor who can help you out. When it comes to erectile dysfunction, Dr. Will Cole, talk to the man who is shamed by this diagnosis. And is this something that is diagnosed, or just a man just realizes biologically that, you know, his appendage just doesn't work the way that it used to work?
I think, as with most chronic issues like this, it's vastly underdiagnosed. I don't think we realize the full ramification. I mean, the stats are, like I said earlier, 50%. I bet it's even higher than that. 50% of guys ages 40 to 70 are not able to sustain an erection, and the research says for satisfactory sexual function. So it could just be not what that person wants or needs. There's no reason why a patient needs to be shamed into not talking about this and not seeking help, because there's nothing to be shamed about. You know, there's a reason why you're going through this, and when we find the reason why you are going through this, then we can help you.
We got a caller on the line. We have a Catrice on the line. Catrice, welcome to Dion Evans Live, Truth, Raw, and Uncut. Your question for Dr. Cole. Are you there, Catrice? I think Catrice is off the line. We'll have to find out what happened to Catrice. Let me ask you this question, Dr. Will Cole. You talked about a second ago, you talked about not being able to sustain an erection. At what point does a man realize that the desire just went away versus what the reality is he couldn't sustain an erection?
Yeah, I mean, I think for most guys, the issue isn't the desire issue. I mean, erectile dysfunction is not about, you not, having romantic feelings for your wife. This is an actual physiological issue. Whereas, if there is marital issues, that's a whole other issue, which may be, a stressor that's causing a physiological manifestation of erectile dysfunction. But for most guys, the predominance, this has nothing to do with, desiring your wife or whoever you're with. This has to do with a physiological impossibility because of a hormone dysregulation, because of these stressors, because of toxicity issues, because of nutritional deficiencies, all of these different factors. And it's normally not just one. It's normally a complicated mixture of them all, where we have to look at all the different factors. So, yeah.
Wow. Again, we're talking erectile dysfunction, and, that's no fun in your function if it's dysfunctional. And so we're having Dr. Will Cole. He's my special guest today, Dion Evans Live, segment 3. Dr. Will Cole, talk to us about, is there any coming back? Once you have erectile dysfunction and rather you're diagnosed or you're not really sure, but you're not functioning properly, you do the hormone test as you had suggested. Someone goes to drwillcole.com. They spend some time consulting with you, get a plan of action, do some lab tests. You get the results. How long does it take to reverse erectile dysfunction? And can erectile dysfunction be reversed back to normal functionality?
For most people, yes, it can be reversed. But the thing is, do not procrastinate, because the longer you let this go, whatever is causing the issue, that will only perpetuate more and more problems. So you're going to want to take action now. Do not procrastinate. There's a reason why you're listening to this interview right now. It's not on accident. You're going to have to take action and do something about it, because left unchecked, it will continue to progress and continue to get worse. But for most people, when they deal with these underlying issues, they can reverse the problem. It may take a couple months, but it's well worth it, because you're undoing probably years and years of hormonal dysregulation that culminated in this erectile dysfunction.
Now, Dr. Will, you had talked a little earlier about the man and testicles. As far as the man who may exercise a lot, his testicles will be more shrunken, and therefore he'll have his own set of issues. What is healthy testicles? What is healthy testicles as it relates to men? All men know what their testicles are like. They know what they look like. Men touch them often, make sure that they're there. What do healthy testicles appear like, feel like? Tell us, doctor.
Well, you're going to want to make sure they're equal in size. You're going to want to make sure there's no nodules on them. Obviously, there's no painful points on them, and you want to make sure that they're basically symmetrical. You don't want one size smaller than the other, because you may be, again, dealing with this atrophy that comes along with hormonal dysregulation.
Wonderful. Again, we got the website, www.drwillcole.com. Dr. Will Cole, you want to check out his website. You want to hook up with him. I think I'm going to hook up with him. You know why? Because I am. Now, this is what I will admit. I do know I do not have erectile dysfunction, but I do know that I hate going to the doctors. I hate it with a passion. My wife has been trying to get me to go. I'm just one of these guys that don't like the experience. I've never had an experience with a doctor that made me feel like, you know what, I like him. I'm gonna come back next time. I'll come to my checkup. I'm the guy's like, I'm not coming back. I'm just not. And that cannot be good for me medically. So I'm glad that I have Dr. Will Cole. You will be hearing from me. And by all means, we're going to start a regimen so I can make sure that I can stay on this earth as long as I can for my kids. Is that all right?
I love it.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. We're getting ready to go to a commercial break, and when we get ready to come back from the commercial, we will have Ijanea Canton on. You know, she's our fitness, our health person, MEFFitness.com. Matter of fact, she's how I learned about Dr. Will Cole. She raves about him, and I'm so glad she did because it may change my whole medical issues. Before we get Dr. Will Cole, before we let him go, he's still with us, right? Before we let him go, Dr. Cole, what for those who are taking Viagra and all this other erectile stuff, should they stop taking that? Is there a risk for them to stop taking this stuff now that they've been taking it?
I would they would have to talk to their prescribing doctor about getting off of it. But yes, I mean, many men, once they talk to the prescribing doctor, are able to get off of it, no problem.
Wonderful, wonderful. That's good stuff. So you don't have the excuse. You do not have the excuse that because you started it, you got to stay on them. You can't get off of them, but talk to the physician that prescribed your Viagra and go from there. Oh, I got to ask this question, Dr. Cole, before I let you go.
Yeah.
What about the people? Well, you know what? I'll have to catch that next time because I hear the theme music in the background in my ears. I appreciate you, Dr. Cole. We'll have to do this again. I'll get in contact with you. We'll make it happen.
Anytime. I'm glad to be here for you.
All right, my friend. Let's go to break. Dion Evans Live, Truth, Raw, and Uncut.